Hey, it's Josiah. On today's episode, I was joined by AJ from Normalmaxxing. If you've been listening to Fruitless for a while, you may remember AJ from an episode all the way back in May of 2022 called The Culture War is a Spiritual Problem. It was a fun one, and I stuck a link to it in the show notes if you missed it. Since that episode, AJ has continued thinking a lot about how easy it is to drive yourself insane on the internet and has started a Substack called Normalmaxxing, where he tries to teach all of you with broken online brains how to be normal. So, on today's episode, we're going to teach you how to be normal. But before we do that, I do need to say that you could support this show on Patreon. For a mere $3, you get access to 2 additional bonus episodes per month, as well as access to the Fruitless Discord server and the occasional deleted scene from a main feed episode. If you're not quite ready to commit to supporting the show financially, consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. And hey, I may read your review at the top of an episode. All right, with all of that out of the way, let's get on with the episode. You are listening to Fruitless, a podcast hosted by me, Josiah Sutton. This is episode 56, Normalmaxxing, featuring AJ, where we teach you freaks how to be normal. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Fruitless. I am joined today by AJ. Hello, AJ.
Hi.
And AJ is going to teach us how to normal max.
Yes. So I was once a editor and writer in the digital media space, trademark symbol. I worked in journalism, trademark symbol, for about 10 years. And I was jumping from content job to content job, lots of layoffs and turmoil. And I decided, in the new age of Trump, after my most recent layoff, that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Because that's what America is all about.
Yeah, this is the age of the entrepreneurial ethic, It's time. Yeah.
I'm a self-made man, and I'm going to work for myself. So I have decided that my new venture is that I am a life coach and a consultant.
It's great. Yeah. So what are you coaching people to do? What are you consulting people to do?
Well, Josiah, I think that people are struggling to be normal. Mm-hmm. And they're struggling to be normal because they don't feel normal.
Right.
I know how to feel normal. I feel very normal all the time.
Right. Me too. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I thought this would be an important episode to do, is because I'm completely normal and there's nothing wrong with me, but I know the people listening to this might have some issues. So this would be good to really reach out.
No, I think that normal is on a spectrum, right? Like there are some people that they feel normal most of the time, and every once in a while they don't feel normal. I mean, sometimes I don't feel normal. Sometimes I get a little testy. Mm-hmm. And I have to regulate so I feel normal again. But some people are so averse to feeling normal that it builds and builds and builds and builds in their system. And then suddenly they're posting about how they think the Holocaust has happened to them. And it didn't, because the Holocaust happened to other people 80 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some examples of this abnormality we see on online, capital O online?
Well, let me talk about some of the recent struggles I've been having with other users on twitter.com who I like to call future followers. So I have a lot of future followers in my mentions, angry people from the trans community, which is my community. I'm a transgender man. Mm-hmm. And they're very, very upset with me because recent discourse seems to have convinced a lot of them that they have experienced the Holocaust and that they are going to experience the Holocaust soon again. Mm-hmm. And I have been really insistent that I'm like 99.99% sure that the Holocaust happened to other people 80 years ago in a different country. The last time I checked, the Holocaust is something that happened to my husband's great grandma. It is
Right.
not something that happened to trans people in America in 2025. And I'm just trying to help them feel normal by telling them that the Holocaust didn't happen to them. And I'm facing a lot of resistance on this point.
Okay.
People
Well,
really
I mean, I'm clenching up a little bit. So like, because I have the thought of like, okay, but there definitely is a really dark turn kind of happening. What's a normal way of expressing the very dark and seemingly genocidal attitudes coming from the right wing administration right now toward trans people?
So right now, there's a lot of talking going on, right? There's a lot of peacocking and posturing. We are removing mentions of people from websites,
Mm-hmm.
and we are being petty about passports and social security cards. You know, I read one story about a trans woman in California who went to go renew her passport, and there was some sort of a commotion about her documents, and she ended up having her documents held, and they were not going to issue her any passport. And then she went online, and a bunch of journalists like got in contact with her, and suddenly there were a lot of eyes on this, and then all of a sudden, the passport office suddenly says, okay, like this is a lot of attention. So here are all of your documents back. And we're just going to give you the passport with the mail marker. And she's like, fine, I can travel with it. So that's the position that they're in right now. They want to be petty about passports and social security cards. They are messing around a lot with the healthcare of trans kids, which is concerning for the long term impacts that it will have on these young people who know that they're trans and want to transition. And we have the ability to help them do what they want to do now. And making them wait is needlessly cruel.
Mm-hmm.
However, they are not going to be murdered or thrown in jail. That has not been discussed yet. There is no legal mechanism for
Mm-hmm.
the government to do that. It hasn't happened, and people are saying, well, it could happen. It could happen, AJ. I could become a victim of the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say to that, like, theoretically, it could happen to you. Yeah. Theoretically, a fucking meteor could hit the world and none of us will have to think about anything because we'll be dead. And so, I mean, theoretically, that could happen. Theoretically,
Mm-hmm.
Trump could choke on a Big Mac tomorrow,
Yeah,
and this is
that's true.
over.
That's true.
It's Jover at that
So
point.
what's what is the appropriate amount of being worried right now? Because I feel like a deep sense of doom right now, just as a cis straight guy.
I mean,
What's the right
sure.
amount?
I mean, sure, we're all feeling shitty, right? And that's normal. It's normal to acknowledge that you feel like shit and you hate these fucking people that will not stop running their mouths.
And seizing political power.
It's important to be maintained and grounded in reality of the moment. You know, I think that a lot of what is causing people distress is that they're very sucked into these screens. We have created this digital
Mm-hmm.
world of AI ghosts and feeding off of each other's thoughts and anxieties. And we get sucked into this screen and we think that the world has drastically changed. But in Normalmaxxing, as you know, because you've read them, I do something at the beginning of every essay, which is I talk about the physical environment that I'm in and the
Mm-hmm.
condition that I'm sitting in. So, like, let's do a meat space check-in right now. I am sitting in my living room, at the desk. I have taken my ADHD meds and a shower, and
Mm-hmm.
I've got some coffee here, and I've got a water. That's good. I'm hydrating. I'm medicated. I had a little something to eat before I came on,
Sure, yeah.
and I'm generally okay. my bank account is a little empty, and I'm not happy about that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
That's a real life AJ problem that needs to be dealt with. But today is going to be a relatively normal day for the most part in meat space in real life. Digital life is always insane,
Yeah.
right? So what's going on in Josiah meat space?
Okay, we're doing a meat space check-in. I worked way too late last night, and so I got home late, and then because of that, I ate food late. So this morning I woke up feeling nauseous from eating eating too late. And now I'm drinking some coffee and hitting this vape too much, and slowly feeling a little less shitty.
Yeah, nicotine will make you feel less shitty. Um,
In the short term.
um, perhaps toxic and unwoke of me. I felt a little bit of a surge of excitement when I saw that Trump was going hard against the bans on menthols. But like, and it's like the one thing that he did that I was like happy about. I'm like, oh, thank God they were gonna. And then I remembered that my husband like doesn't want me to smoke at all, and I quit smoking years ago.
But you like the option.
But I think about having a nice menthol all the time, and silver linings. I do appreciate that he said, "Fuck them, fuck the wokes. You're keeping your menthols."
You gotta look for the silver linings of the administration.
It's good. It's good. It's good to look for the positives even in dark times.
Okay, so grounded in reality here. Well,
Mhm.
this has been kind of a thing that we've talked, like I've been talking about off and on the show. Is like, on a Patreon episode last month, we my buddy Josh and I were talking about how tech guys kind of hate having bodies, and that a lot of ways the right wing administration right now is a coalition between two different types of hating having a body. So you have like the tech guys who want to live in the computer and go to AI heaven, just really want to streamline every aspect of the human experience, have an AI make your music for you, have an AI have sex for you, whatever, just like completely, off-put all of the human experience so that you can maximize, your business potential. And then you have like the right-wing evangelical that believes that this world is going to be destroyed by God here in the next century or so. So it doesn't matter what we do. And it's all about the spiritual warfare, and they don't want to have a body anyway either. And that is the coalition uniting the right-wing administration right now, is people who don't want to be alive and don't wish to have bodies. So in some sense, normalmaxxing is the exact opposite of that.
As a trans person, I understand that sometimes it's very hard to live in one's body. Bodies, we can have a very complicated relationship with them. But I think an important part of normal maxing is radically accepting that you have a body. You have
Yeah.
one. You have one, and that body is you.
Yep.
You are a sack of meat, and you should take care of the sack of meat. And if the sack of meat that you live in feels good, you won't want to exit it as much. And I think that there is also another element of the right wing, and this is particularly common with like men and particularly like younger men, like millennials and some
Yeah.
is this neurotic obsession with like perfecting the body and with nutrition and weightlifting, is that these are the people that are like more in like the weird RFK sphere of the right,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the people who are like pseudo intellectual health conscious, but
Yeah.
like, and a really cringe term that you hear people refer to this with is body fascism.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we need to add the word fascism to everything. I think it loses its meaning when you use the term too much. Maybe in this case, it is a little bit body fascism.
Maybe you could say it wasn't at one point fully body fascism. It was just kind of like being insane about body shit. But like in recent years, maybe it's got a little fascy undercurrent, something like that.
I mean, this neurotic obsession with perfecting the body is also a different way of hating your body. It's just like a male disorder.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's like part of it is because this is the same, like, you know, the same obsession with the body is the kind of thing that produces like the Reddit thing where you like rate my appearance and stuff like that. That's a form of self-harm and self-loathing, right? To be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a 6. That's an insane way to look at the world.
I find it interesting that a lot of young cisgender men who did not like grow up having their bodies like scrutinized the way that like females do, and a lot of queer men as well, that they have developed like body dysmorphia in the way that teenage girls have it. Like I thought it was really interesting. I was once like, because sometimes I just scroll through posts of like incels and like really far right people. I'll like go on like Reddit and 4chan and I'll just read things that people say because it fascinates me. I want to be a psychologist. So I'm fascinated by the human psyche and like the things people say. And I'm fascinated by very neurotic people. And I was reading this one guy, and he was just a very like normal looking white dude, like someone completely nondescript that you would just see on the street and like not even think twice about, like not the most handsome man in the world, but like definitely not like noticeably ugly, very average. And he was insisting that he was deformed in this incel form.
Yeah.
That's not normal maxing. He doesn't recognize his own face. He doesn't recognize that he's just like, they use the term NPC. Like, you're an NPC. You're a normal looking white man, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine to be a normal looking white man. Yeah. That's okay.
That's a fine thing to be. Well, that's something I think you said in one of the first Normal Maxing posts in your like list of like the principles of Normal Maxing. One is like not hating yourself. I really liked this too, because you're like, even if you're the worst person in the world, you will not be better. You will not become a better person if you actively fucking loathe yourself.
You won't, because if you hate someone, you don't want good things for them.
Yeah, right,
if you
exactly.
hate someone, you want bad things to happen to them. So if you hate yourself, you want to ruin your life because you hate yourself. I think that if your life is fucked up and your brain is fucked up and you don't feel good about yourself, then you should treat yourself as a project that you're working on. And this is very like female BPD behavior of me, is that like I've decided to treat myself the way that I treat the highly damaged people that I bring into my life and then have terrible boundaries with.
Yeah.
I'll meet a heroin addict in a bar and I'll be like, I can fix you because I'm insane.
Right. You're doing that for yourself now.
Yeah, but I'm decided to just do that with myself instead of hating myself. I am now the insane person that I'm trying to fix.
Oh, that's a good. I think that's a good mentality. That's a good mentality more people should probably have.
And I think that there's room for self-improvement for everyone. I don't think that you need to be like me and have borderline to decide that you need to make your life better. But that is principle number one, is hating yourself is not a normal emotion. It's not rational, and it's very self-destructive. The normal maxing principles are also kind of like vaguely focused on DBT, dialectical behavior therapy practices, which is the form of therapy that was developed by a psychologist named Marsha Linehan, who actually more or less cured herself of borderline personality disorder, which I think is fascinating. But DBT is also derivative of some like Buddhist philosophy about like, presence in the moment and like radical acceptance and like letting go of suffering. So I'm doing something that is derivative of something that's derivative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which in some sense is like perfect for the internet age, right? It's the hyper real.
I can make up my own philosophy. I can be an ideologue if I want to be. Anyone can be anything.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, this was something you had said kind of off mic a bit, was in the Trump era, credentials don't mean anything anymore.
They don't.
Yeah.
Why do I need credentials to do anything? Like, people hate therapists. I've never heard anybody say, the only time people say anything nice about a therapist is like when they're like one of those types that's like really neurotic about boundaries because they have like avoidance attachment issues and
Hmm.
like they don't want to have relationships with anybody and they're like really, really high strung. Those people treat therapy like a religion.
Yeah.
But everybody else hates therapists because the average therapist sucks. They suck. They obviously suck at their job. Look around you. Look at these people. Have therapists done a good job of making people sane?
Especially with like the main school of therapy that most people do right now because it is what the insurance companies endorse is CBT,
Yeah.
and that doesn't seem I have used a CBT workbook to get out of a depressive stint at one point. That's about the most use I've got out of it. I went right back into it a few months later, though.
So CBT, to my understanding, and again, like I am at this point entirely self-educated on anything that I know about psychology because I can't afford to go back to school. But from what I understand, CBT, when it was developed in the 50s, was a response to people beginning to have problems with the model of psychoanalysis,
Yeah, sure.
Freudian psychoanalysis. And so, without getting like too brainwormed about things and getting too into the weeds, like really, really basic shit, psychoanalysis kind of insists that one's feelings influence their thoughts, which influence their behaviors.
Hmm.
And CBT is focused more on how thoughts influence your feelings.
Yeah.
And they're both arguing this point, like, do your thoughts influence your feelings, or do your feelings influence your thoughts? And the truth is that it is both. Your thoughts influence your feelings, and then your feelings create new thoughts.
Hmm.
It's a vicious cycle. That's what neuroses is. It's
Yeah, yeah.
cycling and getting caught between like having a thought about something and then that thought creating anxiety and fear, and then that anxiety and fear creating new thoughts that are irrational and don't make any sense, and then behaving on those irrational thoughts and feelings. So it's a little bit of a combination of the two, I imagine.
Hmm.
But that is where CBT ultimately fails, is that it's only partially true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's true that your thoughts do influence something, of course. I mean, but I think like what I'm critical of is that it turned into like is it 10-week model? I think it's like a 10-week model or whatever, where it's like, it's a perfect fits into what an insurance company wants, which is just you do this many sessions and then you're better and you get back to the workforce. Good work. And doesn't ever get at anything deeper than that. I think for some people where it really is just like a neurochemical problem, like with some people it might just be that the CBT works great. But if you're depressed because of a thing, it works. It helps to be thinking about the thing.
So dialectical behavior therapy, because it's newer and it's really, really intense. Like when you do an actual DBT program, which like the only people who do DBT programs are people with like really severe borderline or really severe complex post-traumatic stress disorder, who they do essentially what is a like a weekly meeting for like an hour with a therapist, like a DBT specialist. And then then once a week as well, they go to a class where a bunch of other people who are doing DBT work on DBT skills, which is like mindfulness, staying present in the moment, like working on like regulating your like out of whack emotions. So you're not like constantly flying off the handle, because with borderline and with CPTSD, the problem is that you're triggered like all the time and like super emotionally dysregulated.
Hmm.
So like you're constantly just emotionally exhausted from exhausting yourself like irrationally over nothing. And so it's really, really intense and it's expensive. And a lot of therapists don't want to be DBT specialists because one of the parts of DBT, it is like your duty as a therapist is that when you have a patient who's in your program, whether it's like 6 months or 18 months, it's usually like in between those two poles. You have to be on call like all the time. Your
Hmm.
patient has to be able to call you at 11 p.m. when like they had a date that didn't go well and now they're spiraling. Like
Sure.
you
Yeah.
have to pick up and a lot of people don't want to pick up the phone.
Yeah. Understandably, that's a huge, huge task to take on. Yeah.
It's a vocation, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And you have to treat it like a vocation. But if it's going to be someone's vocation, you have to compensate it well. And I think that insurance companies, they don't want to compensate someone who's, willing to provide that level of care because it would cost a lot.
Hmm.
I have radically accepted that we are never getting better healthcare in this country ever. That system is never getting fixed, and I think that the best way for people who care about the healthcare in this country to move forward is to look for loopholes that don't rely on the government because they are categorically not going to do anything to provide people
Hmm.
health care. So I'm channeling my immigrant grandfather and I am pulling myself up by my bootstraps. And I am living in the United States of America and I'm thinking, how can I make the United States of America work for me?
Yeah.
How can I beat the system? How can I be smarter?
Yeah, that's an interesting mentality because I still hold on to this like reformist impulse quite a bit, but I mean I think there's something there for acknowledging that things at the very least right now don't seem to be fucking going a good direction, and so you need to be building something outside of the existing structure.
Maybe I'm a little bit in my libertarian era. Maybe they had a point. Maybe libertarians ate like a little bit when they said that like this is never gonna fucking work. At least here in America, it doesn't seem to be working, right? It's failed. So not having strong ideological brainworms that reach theology levels of adherence, maybe being a little libertarian pilled about the government right now is not a bad idea.
No, yeah, I mean, especially at this current moment as we're watching like Elon Musk lackeys just like stealing your social security number or whatever. Maybe it's time for a teensy bit of anarchism. I don't know.
What is he gonna do with my social security number?
I don't know.
Want it? Like what? You want my credit score, Elon? You're a billionaire. Like you want my credit? What are you? My heroin addict cousin? You need to steal my social security number? Josiah, that's a little bit why I'm not afraid of these people because I come from Chudland. So do you, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Where are you from again originally?
I am from a working class town in the Hudson Valley, just like outside of New York City, where
Okay.
like a lot of people's dads and parents or whatever were like blue collar, like working
Hmm.
people. And I'm from that part of the country where like people just like went really hard for this anti-woke shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like I'm not really like scared of the people running this government and people are like, "Oh, but the rhetoric, the rhetoric, the rhetoric." It's empty fucking rhetoric. Look at these people, they're morons. They can't do anything right. They step on a rake every single time they try to implement something. All they're doing is talking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm like I don't know why I'm holding on to the need to feel more doom right now than this, but I feel more doom, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
I do want to caveat one thing. ICE is scary. That's scary, and what they're doing to non-white people and undocumented immigrants in this country is terrifying.
Hmm.
They are taking brown people off the streets of New York, people who are not even undocumented, people who are citizens who just happen to be Hispanic or look like they might be foreigners, and they're being picked up by ICE
Yeah.
indiscriminately. And a normal maxed way of approaching that is taking it extremely seriously, remembering
Hmm.
what your rights are, and paying attention to what's happening. Because ICE is finding often
Yeah.
in blue cities that they are being thwarted by people being militant about not trusting them.
Yeah, wasn't it the gargle my balls line I remember floating around? Was it some fucking
King,
like some
King.
yeah, was it a bus driver or something who said that? I don't remember.
That bus driver in that moment, that is the most normal maxed. The most normal maxed man in America in that moment. He was so
Yeah.
real for that.
No, yeah, I think that's how a normal person should respond to a militant fascist enforcer showing up at your door. Is get the fuck out of my house.
Yes,
Fuck you.
absolutely,
I am
absolutely.
not cooperating. Fuck
Fuck
you.
ICE categorically.
Right.
And that is real, but that is the normal max position. Fuck them, feed them nothing, tell them
Hmm.
nothing, and they're not going to be able to do as much as they want to be able to do.
If no one's cooperating. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And people also have to remember as well about the actual Holocaust, the one that happened 80 years ago, and the Germans, is that these people in our government are not Germans from like the 1930s who had like German discipline of yore. They're not. They don't have that kind of discipline and emotional regulation and work ethic to be able to implement their evil plans. Like they can be evil, they can have evil thoughts, but like in order to be able to carry out catastrophic damage, you have to have the discipline and the ability to get something done.
Hmm.
And I think that ultimately what might save a lot of us from this like fascist movement is that they are extremely incompetent.
No, yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, I think something John Gans had pointed out that I've been thinking about is he's been comparing the kind of fascist moment in the U.S. less to Nazi Germany and more to Vichy France, where it's a little more like just institutions giving up to incompetent people. You know, it's just kind of there doesn't seem to be a popular manifestation in the streets or whatever. It's just kind of a lot of people just kind of cooperating. And so, you know, one way you'd resist that is just don't fucking cooperate, which we are now seeing more of, you know, since because that Vichy France thing was, yeah, he wrote that around the inauguration, I think. You know, we've seen a little more of that now with like the federal employees resisting, fighting back. People like residents in DC, like trying to keep a Elon Musk lackey from getting into buildings, stuff like that. We're seeing a little more of that now. Like, just don't cooperate, you know?
Don't cooperate and don't respect the new edicts that are coming down. Like they can pass them. Like Trump can pass whatever executive order he wants. He can order the federal government to do whatever. And like even if he's like cleaned house and put a lot of his like brain dead, brainwashed followers like in federal positions, like just don't rely on the federal government as much as possible. Try to rely on other things, and if they try to make you do something, tell them to eat shit. What are they going to do? Oh,
Yeah.
like they can't send ICE to your door
Hmm.
because ICE is already busy, and they're not even able to get done what they want to get done. So like you're giving them another project.
Hmm.
Like what they're going to send the cops? Like what are they going to do? One thing that I will say is that I think things are going to get really bad in red states. And I think that if you live in a red state and you are like a left progressive person or you're queer in any way, shape, or form, you should probably think about moving.
Yep, that's
Because
that's on the mind.
I don't think that there is going to be a sequel to the Holocaust. I don't think that that's going to happen. However, I do think that it is possible that the federal government as an apparatus is slowly deteriorating and being dismantled beyond repair. And we're going to see a slow shift to a balkanization of the United States. And the lines between blue states and red states are going to get like a little bit harder. And it's going to feel we're going to feel a little bit more like we have like a European Union structure rather than like a United States of America like structure of how we relate to one another. Like we'll probably share a passport and like a couple of other things, but like I think that it's going to kind of be like every state for itself. And maybe certain states will make certain coalitions with each other. Unfortunately, I think Ben Shapiro is right. I think the national divorce is happening.
Oh, I hate that.
Sometimes mommy and daddy get divorced. Mommy and daddy are fighting. Daddy is deep, deep, deep in the Andrew Tate rabbit hole.
Yep.
And he's working out 3 hours a day. And he's really insane about trans women, and he's not doing well, and he won't get a job. And mommy is really concerned about that, and she doesn't want to put up with him anymore because she's the breadwinner and she has to take care of the babies. And so she wants a divorce from daddy, and daddy wants a divorce because his wife is an NPC and he's not real. So, that's what's happening in America. And it's not your fault that your parents are getting divorced. It's not your fault. It was never your fault. It's just that sometimes grown-ups just don't get along anymore.
Just doing
And you're going to live with mommy. It's important that you live with mommy because daddy cannot take care of you.
Just doing the Good Will Hunting monologue, but about the national divorce is very funny. It's not your fault. Well, okay, you gestured at this with the Andrew Tate stuff, but one thing I did kind of, because I think we'd been planning on doing an episode here for a few months now. One of the things we had originally kind of talked about was like the manosphere and like, whatever. And I think that fits into the Normalmaxxing conversation a bit. So like, what's going on with dudes right now? What's going on with men?
Well, I've recently started taking testosterone. I've been on it for about 8 months, and I've been carefully noting the way it changes the way that I think and feel. And I think about socialization, like how young boys and young girls are socialized as kids. And I think particularly about how young boys and girls are socialized in these like MAGA chud environments, because me and my brother are like a perfect case study because we were super close in age and we had the same parents. And like I can see the differences between how growing up in that environment impacted me versus how it impacted him.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of men who are being told right now that they need to be sensitive and kind and emotionally intelligent, but they were never taught how to do those things as children. They were taught the opposite by their fathers and, frankly, their mothers. A lot of moms are really shit the beds with their sons. True. And I think that a lot of them are very wounded from mommy issues and daddy issues, both of them. And I think that that's why they get so enamored with guys like Trump. I think all the time too. And, again, we're getting back a little bit into like some of the psychoanalysis flavored elements of Normalmaxxing about like feelings influencing the strange things that you say. Conservatives keep talking about Trump coming back and that they're excited. And I have heard this exact phrasing, this exact fantasy more than once, where a conservative man gets excited at the idea that Trump is coming home, daddy's coming home, and he's going to take his belt off and he's going to start spanking people.
I'm going to insert right here Tucker Carlson saying this exact thing.
You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now. And no, It's not going to hurt me more than it hurts you. No, it's not. I'm not going to lie. This is going to hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. And you earned this. You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl.
Yes, they're all saying it. There's Trump is daddy. Daddy is going to come home, and daddy is mad because the children are not giving themselves. And he's going to take off his belt, and he is going to spank them. He is going to spank them very hard. And they are saying these things out loud in front of them. So that is indicating to me that there are a lot of strongly held feelings. Very sexual things happening here. Very sexual feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I remember was it Vance or so? I don't even remember. It's like hard to keep up with everything these days, but I think it was the way Vance was drinking a beer. Everyone was saying like really weird shit about that. We're like, that's how a man does it. You know, it's like everything is about this like insane, like, I don't know. Yeah. Like psychoanalytic type, like seeing a father figure in these male, I don't know, role models in their head.
I want to talk about a very, very serious shortage and crisis in America. And this is, I think, a critical national issue because it's created this movement on the right, especially, and they don't even know what it is because they're not, in tune to the things that the queer community is in tune with, that we know about, things that are plaguing us. There is a top shortage in this country. There is a severe top shortage.
Okay.
We are now experiencing one top for like 1,000 bottoms out there. Mm-hmm. And bottoms are clamoring for sexual release, and they cannot find it anywhere. And the few tops that we do have are exhausted because they have bottoms throwing themselves at them all the time. And I think that the reason why Donald Trump was able to ascend the way that he did and create this coalition is because Donald Trump is actually a top. Mm-hmm. He's actually a top. And this is just his harem of very clingy bottoms. They need to be spanked. They need to be spanked. They need to be railed. They are very needy. Daddy, daddy, daddy. I need tummy. And they are suffering. This is a disease. It's a spiritual disease. J.D. Vance posted a picture of himself as the 1950s mommy in a picture.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He superimposed Trump's face on the dad. And
in a Norman Rockwell painting, right? It was a Norman Rockwell painting.
He superimposed his own face on a picture of a woman from the 1950s like wearing one of the little housewife dresses. He needs to be fucked hard by a man. Asking for. J.D. Vance in that moment came out as a submissive bottom who has 1950s domestic discipline kink. And I think that is a really brave thing.
That was brave of him. Yep.
He came out as, not only did he let us know that he is a submissive bottom in that moment, he let us know that he specifically has 1950s domestic household play kink. And that was really brave. That's a really popular one on the right.
See, I've had a theory with thinking through the two parties in American politics and kind of, in this I don't know, psychoanalytic mode that I think you're challenging a bit. But how I've often said it is I really think of Republicans as sadists and Democrats as masochists. And I think it decodes like a lot of the last 10 years because like Democrats love losing. They love being humiliated. They adore it, as Republicans just love hurting people. But I think the maybe adjustment to that too, though, is I don't know if it's all Republicans or even sadists. I think there's a couple proper sadists and then just more masochists. This is an era of bottoms and masochists.
It is, because there's a top shortage, a severe
That's right. Yeah. Because I got that idea from, have you ever seen the documentary Wiener about Anthony Weiner?
No, I haven't.
I kind of want to do a Fruitless episode about it soon because I adore that movie. It's a like documentary where there's this camera crew following Anthony Weiner at his attempt to run for mayor after the sexual the sexual misconduct ordeal. And if you recall how that mayoral election went, a second sexual misconduct allegation came out in the middle of it. And the camera crew didn't know that's what was going to happen going into it. So it turns into like an episode of Veep or something out of nowhere, where it is a camera crew watching a mayoral campaign collapse from inside. And that was the documentary that got me, that planted the seed in my head that Democrats are masochists, because there is a part of him that clearly is enjoying the humiliation. And it's like kind of apparent. It's kind of very obviously there. Yeah. He's a pervert. Yeah. You don't get caught that many times without like kind of liking the getting caught. You know?
Well, actually, I would argue that the Democratic Party is the party of male submissives and femdoms.
Okay.
Because let's be real, Hillary Clinton is not a bottom. Those women are not bottoms at all. Mm-hmm. They're very toppy.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I struggle to think of many female Democratic politicians that have submissive bottom energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's the party of femdoms and male submissives who like femdoms, and the men on the Republican side who are submissive don't like that because they don't want a femdom, they want daddy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and they're challenged by that. Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense. That tracks with me. So that's cool. What a cool psychic kind of place we're in right now. So what? The solution to this is everybody needs to be normalmaxxing. Well, and actually, I think it's there's a lot of energies that should go elsewhere that people project into politics now, I think, on some level. Like we're talking about like sexual energies, but like even down to like one of like my big normalmaxxing things over the last few months is that I finally got over my sports ball shit and just started actually following sports. And turns out it's pretty fun and it's normal and it's cool because it suddenly creates a way to relate to a lot of people. Normal people in your everyday life. Most of the normies out there care a lot about their regional football team. And if you just say, how about them Vikings, you have a conversation going. I've been discovering that. What I've been discovering on top of that, though, is I think a lot of people who aren't into sports are projecting their deep desire for sports into politics. They want to go, those are my guys, hell yeah, cheer them on, rather than be critical and think through like, so like you see this with a lot of like Democrat partisans who resist any criticism to the party, because they're like, no, those are our guys. You want to just be a fan of a sports team. That's what you want. That's what you want when you're doing that. When you're just
normal maxed Democrats are like the guys who are really into baseball.
Yes. Yes.
The Jon Stewart, like, I like baseball guys.
Yes. Because that's where you can channel that, like, no, it's the Democrats are perfect. They're great. Like that you channel that into that's how you feel about, I don't know, the Buffalo Bills or whatever. Okay. And we can let that be the national liturgy of that desire to just blindly cheer on a guy. Okay. And stop doing that in politics.
Well, I have always felt that sports are the modern day civilized obfuscated desire for war.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is a lot of like what normalmaxxing is about too, is about understanding and being normal about those like very id-brained desires and acknowledging them for what they are and expressing them and letting them out in a way that is healthy and ethical.
Right. And yeah, like sports is a much healthier outlet for that warlike death drive or whatever.
To actual war.
Yeah, politics can kill people. Like people die because of things that happen politically.
I mean, people can theoretically die in athletics, but like it's not going to happen as often.
No, and it's part of the kind of what an athlete agrees to do. is to take on this often really hard on your body activity, but they love it. That's why they're doing it. You know what I mean? As opposed to with war, it's like there's no war where civilians don't get murdered. There's no war where that doesn't happen. And there's no war where every single person that's fighting on the front lines wants to be there. There's no version of that, really.
I hate war, but I love a good boxing match. I love watching boxing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting. I brought that up in front of someone recently who I think is a little bit less id-brained in that way, and like they kind of balked at it. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I guess that is like kind of a violent desire, but like I see something very like intimate about a boxing match. It's a very like, intimate form of violence, just like two guys in a ring just pummeling each other, and you can see the blood, you can see them like locking horns, and I just find that like emotionally fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen John Boyce's series on UFC fighting. That's Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, and that's exactly kind of the way it frames it. Yeah, it's one of the main ways it kind of frames it. If you look at it as if you look at the history of mixed martial art fighting and stuff like that, like if you look at the history of that lining up with the kind of increasing atomization and neoliberalism kind of just eroding our social lives, it's kind of an interesting, parallel.
I think that a lot of men who get really into UFC fighting and historically boxing, which is like kind of on its way out in America, it's been replaced by UFC mostly. I mean, you can still box.
What? You didn't find the Paul Mike Tyson fight?
No,
super compelling.
I mean, everybody watched it because like, what a fucking spectacle. But I think that a lot of men are, and people say it kind of like smarmily and jokingly, but like I'm being completely sincere when I say like that is like a very homoerotic like experience. I think like being in a ring with another guy and there's like so much sweat and blood, that is really, really intense. And even if it's not like explicitly sexual, I do think that there's some obfuscated like erotic tension there. Like you're really connecting with that other guy in the ring in this like very physically intimate way.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a very violent form of intimacy.
Yeah, I think that's totally right.
I find men's emotions to be fascinating. I actually find them more fascinating than women's emotions, like personally. Not that women's emotions aren't important. I just like, I'm particularly interested in the brains of men.
Yeah.
Always have been. And I think that like one of the exciting things about like finally transitioning is that like I'm going to like one day like pass, and I think that will grant me more access, and I will be able to come into male spaces with a clipboard and learn more about. I've gone undercover. I've gone undercover to learn what you guys are up to.
Well, I think that is actually something I have always been curious about, of trying to get the perspective of a trans man on just like masculinity and masculine emotions, because a big thing of, when you're a cis man is being actively encouraged not to interrogate your gender in any way, shape, or form. And I think, someone who's made the decision to transition is thinking a lot about masculinity and what this means, and I think there's just like aspects of myself I never would have thought to interrogate that I think, having a conversation about that would bring to light, A
lot of men are fascinated by trans men, even if they don't say it out loud. Like my experience as a trans man is that a lot of guys do a double take, because essentially what I think they're like thinking in your head is that like, you're female, you have all of these like very like female formative experiences, and you like lived as a woman, but you have removed all social and in most cases physical indications that you ever were. And now you look just like me. You've removed anything that has to do with like the male gaze on women.
Yeah, right.
And like you've removed that from yourself. And like, after I get surgery and I've been on testosterone for a little longer, I'm just going to be some fucking short dude named Adam with a mustache. Like,
right. Yeah.
and I think that they find that experience fascinating because you look like them, and trans men for the most part, like, we look at what men are doing very closely and we sort of just mimic it in order to be able to fit in male spaces, because that's ultimately what gender socialization is that it's
Right.
the way that you were socialized as a child.
Right. I mean, a cis man did that too. They just did it as a kid and didn't realize they were doing that,
Yes,
observing how other people acted and then doing it as well.
it was unconscious, but for the trans man, that's a conscious experience. You're
Yeah.
looking at what men are doing and you're taking note of it and you're understanding the way that they relate to each other, the way that they speak. And this is not as hard for me because my earliest formative experiences were just being like surrounded by guys. I was a tomboy, and I spent most of my time with my brother and like other little boys. So for like my earliest like identity forming years, for the first 5 years, I like largely was not socially interacting with like too many girls. And I was largely like raised and emotionally taken care of by my maternal grandfather. Because both of my parents worked a lot, and I spent a lot of time with my dad as well, but like the most like emotionally present caretaker during my early years was an older man, my granddad. And my like all of my friends when I was young, as I got a little bit older and I got into elementary school and we all got to that developmental age where like there was more gender separation going on, that was actually a little bit like psychologically traumatizing for me, because suddenly I had to start suddenly like relating to girls, and there were these like new social rules and like ways to behave that were like completely foreign to me, and I had a really hard time fitting in with girls because I was very non-conforming and like not socialized to understand like norms in all female spaces.
Yeah, sure.
And I had a really difficult time with that. And then being queer as well, like just, sexually, I'm actually pretty evenly bisexual. And and this is another thing too, fascinating. Testosterone changes your sexuality.
Oh yeah.
When you take it. A lot of trans men will tell you this. It makes you gayer, it makes you more into dudes, which is how I know that men are fucking lying a lot of the times when they say that they're like totally straight, because like this shit makes you gay. I wasn't taking it before and I'm taking it now, and like I was way more into women like Kinsey scale sliding, and I slid right back into like the dead center. So I know that some of you are lying about whether or not you like dick. You are. You are, because I took the man juice.
You took the man juice and it made you.
And now I know.
Made you
Now
gay.
I know what it does. It makes you. So it just, my experiences of like having estrogen pumping through my system for about 20 years. I hit puberty at like 11 or 12 years old, and I started taking tea at 30. So testosterone makes you gay. It makes you more emotionally impulsive. I put my foot in my mouth like a lot more than I used to.
Sure.
It makes you less sensitive and emotional. Because just for the listeners of the podcast, I know you already know this. My husband is also a trans man, some air, and he and I transitioned at the same time. We began at the same time. And so we spent a couple of years just being like a lesbian couple. And, now we're both doing the testosterone thing. And our fights have changed. Like before we were on T, they were much more like emotionally intense, and like we were both weirdly sensitive with each other. And now we just yell. We like yell and bicker, but like that's not toxic. It's like literally fine, because like we'll yell and we'll get like very, very terse with each other. But we have a respectful relationship that, isn't abusive. So like even though we're like yelling and being a little like insensitive, sensitive, like the issue usually resolves itself within 30 minutes or so.
Sure. Yeah. No, I understand. I understand that. Yeah. Yeah.
So gay, more impulsive socially, less sensitive. I think I'm thinking a little bit clearer. I'm like a little more decisive and I have less brain fog. And horny. Like you guys are taking this. I'm like, wow, men are unfathomably horny. And I cannot imagine going through this experience at like 13.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, I have been told by other trans men that like the physical feelings that you feel will calm down because like what I am essentially going through right now is male puberty hormonally.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right now, I would say, hormonally speaking, I am about 14 years old in terms of male puberty. I am experiencing the feelings of a 14-year-old boy as a 31-year-old female.
That sounds fun.
It's given me more empathy for men in the sense that like I definitely understand more why you make the decisions that you do. Like when a guy does something really fucking stupid now, like when he like puts his head through drywall and like now there's like a big hole in his wall. I look at that and I'm like, yeah, I see how this happened.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's helped you like diagnose the political moment? Because I feel like if there's nothing more emblematic of the political moment, I think, than guy smashing his head into the drywall out of anger. That's kind of the vibe of everything right now.
I think that when women come in and they like want men to be more sensitive and like nicer to them, they want men to like intuitively understand things or behave in a certain way. And a lot of women seem to want men to like have the emotional intelligence of a woman and to understand their experiences, but they want them to be rigidly male and like very obsessed with being male. And they want because that's what they want sexually, right? But they want like the guy from like a romance novel. Like they want like a really emotionally intelligent mask guy. And I think that for a lot of men, I would look at them and I would say like, you know, a lot of like that kind of guy, like the really emotionally intelligent mask dude is not afraid to like be kind of gay. Like he's not like, you know, when I think of like the men who exhibit that the most, I think of like honestly gay leather daddies.
Sure.
Like an older gay leather daddy. Like he's emotionally intelligent, he knows what's going on, but like he's a fucking dom top and like you're gonna get railed if you have sex with him. So I think that like if that is what you want to be, there's no need to be terrified of being a little gay. And I think that men are like really neurotic with each other and they're constantly policing each other about being slightly gay, but they're also being slightly gay at the time they do it. They're like tugging on each other's dicks while calling each other.
Well, yeah, because I think of this like you see this a lot in the kind of manosphere world where there is like a real like back and forth tension between the fact that it seems like that level of obsession with masculinity makes you clearly attracted to masculinity, but also that they can't allow any gayness in there. And so you have like, you know, manosphere influencers trying to square the circle of, yeah, me and my bro are rubbing each other's dicks, but non-sexually. It's like, you know, it's like fine to be a little gay. I also think a lot of this stuff with trans people is it's okay to be like kind of a chaser. Like it's okay that like you're like, I kind of wonder what that transsexual's got going on sexually. Yeah,
feeling.
I mean, don't be mean to or weird to them.
No, like
Yeah.
you don't have to treat another human being like they are a sex doll. That is not nice. That's rude. No one likes that. But if you are sexually interested in someone, it is fine to flirt with them like a normal person
Yeah.
would.
Right.
That's another thing that I want to help people with normal maxing is, and this is one of the many things that I consult on. I consult on lots of topics, but I one of my areas of expertise is that I'm a RIS consultant. I am teaching people how to have normal sexually charged interactions with other people because I am beginning to get concerned with the fear, confusion, and anxiety that a lot of Zoomers feel flirting with each other.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that flirting has become a very perilous place for a lot of people. They don't know what they're doing. I see flirting advice online that seems like it might have been written by an extraterrestrial who like came to Earth and like
Yeah.
watched humans interact and like tried to understand human mating rituals.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very, very bizarre. Men have lost the ability to understand how to flirt with women, and women, I think a lot of them have become very overly reflexive and reactive to men trying to flirt with them because they keep experiencing insane behaviors
Sure.
from
Yeah.
men. So they have this like natural reflex, and then they go into these like all female spaces and they just start like feeding off of each other, like feeding off of this like I hate men energy, and then they release that on like a random guy who's just like written her a note and is like trying to get her number and was like maybe slightly awkward and a little cringe, but like not a crime.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with
And
being cringe or
there's nothing
awkward.
wrong with being slightly cringe when you're trying to flirt with somebody. That's like the nature of flirting is that you run the risk of being cringe. And you know, I think that I don't particularly appreciate it, and I don't think it's couth or polite to screenshot like relatively normal dating app messages and like
Oh my
normal
God.
media. I
This
think
has become a very big thing on social media. Yeah. I really fucking hate it.
why did every Zoomer decide that we should live in the fucking panopticon? Like, why are we policing each other
Yeah.
this way? It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to help people learn how to flirt because I know how to flirt with people like a normal person does. I don't have this problem. I've always been able to do it. A lot of it is in the eyes, and a lot of it is body language. And it's not the words that you say, but it's the way that you say them, and it's the things that you imply with your words. Because a lot of people are also really confused about this. I don't know why everyone has become so literal about everything. People have lost the art of like social subtlety and like implying something rather than just saying it outright. Like nobody, and like it's even like the term suggestive has like a very sexualized connotation to it. Like when something is suggestive, but think about that word. You are suggesting something. You are not presenting a picture of your genitals. That's not a suggestion.
Yeah, well, this is where it manifests in like the creepy guy form in the literalism like you're talking about, because it's what is flirting on the internet is just sending an unprompted picture of your dick. You know
I
what I
need to
mean?
understand that
And
thought better.
no, I don't understand the thought process there at all, but it seems common.
I want to find and locate the unsolicited dick pic senders. I want to sit down with them and ask them, what was your thought process?
Yeah,
with a woman?
if for some godforsaken reason somebody listening to this has done that before, yeah, hit up Normalmaxxing.
Reach out to me. Reach out to me. Normalmaxxing. Normalmalmaxxing. normalmaxxing Normalmaxxing, 2 X's, gmail.com. Email me. Let me know. Why do you do that? I'm so curious. And like normalmaxxing@gmail.com is a safe space. If you've done something insane, I will not tell a soul. I will not tell anyone.
Sure.
Just let me know. Let me know why you did it. Because I want to be able to help you and others. I want people to start flirting. I want people to have sex that they like again. I think if people started having sex that they like again, we would live in a happier, more pleasant world. I'm a very happy, pleasant person because I enjoy the sex that I have. Like
Yeah.
I really like I love my husband. I have a great sex life, and that's a huge part of normal maxing is enjoying the sexual relations that you have in real life with others. And like I think that you can start small. You can start with digital sexual relations if you are still like kind of nervous about human bodies. And that is a lot what's going on with Zoomers is that a lot of them have cyber sex, but they don't have like real sex with a person. I am going to bravely and radically say that it is very important to have a meat space sex life. You need to learn how to interact with other human beings.
Yes.
Normal sex. Normal. And what I mean by normal sex is that I don't mean repressed, rigid rules sex. It could be very kinky, non-normative sex. But normal sex is sex that makes you feel normal. It makes you feel normal because that's the kind of sex that you want. It's the kind of sex that you like. That's also another problem that the right has is that they are not having sex that they like.
Yeah, I think you can see that manifested in the way they talk about it.
I feel really depressed when I think about people who like are very like moralistically rigid and like neurotic about sex. And this comes from both the right and the left because the right is like religiously insane about sex, but like there's a lot of people on the left who are also like fucking Puritans about everything. Like people say, and this is something that I'm going to end up talking about a lot in normal maxing, and one of my next columns is, and I'll give you a little preview of it because I haven't responded to her yet. I have a woman who wrote into the normal maxing consulting inbox on my Twitter, which is just normal maxed AJC. I have pinned is a Google form where you can just give a problem to consult on. And I do get answers there. And somebody wrote in, and it was a woman, and she described herself as a feminist who is kind of like buttoned up and reserved. And she's really disturbed by the fact that she has a rape kink. She has like CNC rape kink. She wants to have like kinky sex where she's simulating being raped. And she's like, but like, does this make me a bad feminist? Does it mean that there's something really wrong with me? She's like, I've never been a victim of like real sexual violence or anything. And I'm going to answer her in like a full length essay. I'm going to write it tonight, actually. But yeah, it's like normal that she has that fantasy. In fact, a lot of women have it. A lot of people have it. And like, I have seen on the left specifically is that like a lot of people have become very like not normal about people having kinks because they want to like interrogate these id desires and being like, well, if you have that id desire, it means that you are like fundamentally evil. And this is actually more directed at like doms. Like, oh, if you have the desire to be like the dom in a CNC scene, or like you're a BDSM dom and you're like hitting people with like whips and paddles and like, maybe breaking skin or like doing things that simulate like, violence. I think that what people don't seem to understand is that the violence is simulated and controlled when you're doing ethical BDSM. Like
Right. It's a form of play. It's not, yeah.
The motto is safe, sane, and consensual. And like, if you allow yourself to talk to BDSM practitioners, they'll talk about what safe, sane, and consensual means. In fact, I think that people who do CNC are probably the most emotionally intelligent people about consent, because when you are doing like a really hardcore BDSM scene, there are so many things that can go wrong if you're not paying attention. And
Sure.
My husband actually has a philosophy about this, about like what it means to be like a good dom. And being a dom is a position of responsibility in bed, because you are the one who is maintaining the control in the situation. You're the one in the dominant position. The other person is like maybe like tied up and blindfolded, or, is really like lost in what they call like subspace, and is just like experiencing this very like id release of all of their shame in that moment. And that's another thing too. And I'm going to talk to her about this, is that, when people think of CNC, is that they think of what they see on the surface, which is like this simulated rape fantasy. And it's like, but what are the more like foundational emotions behind that? Because if you really talk to people who practice that kind of kink regularly, for the submissive, it is usually you're getting at some sort of release of shame about sex, that like they've been made to feel a lot of shame, and they just want to simulate being forced to do it. They want that like orgasm and that sexual release forced out of them. The experience of being humiliated in BDSM, that humiliation is that it helps you reach this very like base level where you are just now like free and open, and finally like releasing that energy. And then for the dom in the situation, the people who get that kind of sexual pleasure out of it, is that you are often dealing with someone who feels out of control in their lives, and like wants to maintain like a sense of control over something. And a lot of what's being worked out there is this like very frustrated, neurotic energy that like they just want to control this like unruly person that they have in bed with them. And they it's often also a release valve for rage and anger. Like if you're feeling a lot of rage and anger, you might want to act out in that way. But somebody who is an ethical dominant, who is just like having a conversation beforehand with the sub, discussing limits, discussing safety. That's another thing too, is that like, don't tie somebody up if you don't know rope safety. Like use handcuffs instead, because you can cut off somebody's circulation. You could really hurt them if you like don't use the rope correctly. Everything that you do needs to be physically safe. You need to learn about the human body. And this is why, as I said, there's a crisis in America. There's a top shortage. There's a dom top shortage. It is because being a good dom is a lot of work. You have to learn things. You have to be emotionally intelligent. You have to have empathy for others. But it can also be very rewarding, because you will get a lot of ass. So that's the trade-off. And that is like very much an example of like sexual normal maxing that neither the right or left are doing. You do not have to be afraid of your id desires, the sexual ones. The literal foundation basis of what like a kink or a fetish is literally just like breaking a taboo. Like breaking taboos causes sexual release in most people, and for different people, they have different taboos and different kinks. And the breaking of that taboo in a controlled environment, so you can experience sexual release and like release those endorphins and like feel more connected and at home in your body, is good for you. And you shouldn't shame people for having the desires that they do if they are practicing them in a safe, sane, and consensual way. And I have gotten a lot of flack for pressing on like left-wing progressives who are insane about it, because I think that they're thinking about it in like such a brain-wormed and baby-brained way.
Yeah, kind of to unite everything we've talked about. I think what I've kind of picked up from the normal maxing conversation here overall has been that we have lost societally forms of play. And what I mean by that is like, because this also even combines with like the sports conversation too, right?
Yeah.
Is like, there are a lot of really ugly impulses in humanity. That's just part of it. That's just part of being human. And because of that, you need to develop safe ways, ways that are consensual, safe ways in which to vent out those nasty impulses. So with like we said, with sports and war, and we've talked about a bunch of different like things that come out through like sexuality or whatever. It's right now we're in a really literal time, like you've talked about. So we're in a time of not releasing a lot of our uglier aspects in forms of like play in, from art to sports to whatever. We're not dealing with ugly aspects of humanity, and instead we're projecting it onto the fucking political stage, which has ramifications for how the world will be, rather than just people figuring out adult ways to just play a game again.
Normal maxing is about enjoying yourself in your life, and that is like recreational play, doing sports, having real sex with people who you like. That's a huge focus of normal maxing, having real sex with people who you actually like.
Yeah.
These are also things that very much like ground you back in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with like the technology and the internet, that helps deal with a lot of this like desire that one feels to like not be in their body, because I think it's like there's also an element of this that people don't ever want to like physically feel bad. They're like afraid of feeling pain. They're feeling physical discomfort. And I think that like sometimes you just need to like shock yourself into being back into your body and radically accept that like sometimes you're going to be in pain. Sometimes you're going to have a stomach ache or a headache or a cut. And that's fine. You don't have to be dysregulated every time you feel a physical sensation in the meat sac that is attached to your brain. And I think that engaging in these kinds of play, engaging in sports, and engaging in good sex really kind of grounds you back in your body in a way that's pleasurable, but like not super hedonistic either. Like it's not the same thing getting addicted to drugs or like feeding yourself bullshit, like eating like lots of shitty food and binge eating, or being addicted to pornography and jerking off to pornography, because that is a form of sexual release, but it's a very unsatisfying one. Even if you're nutting, like, I know that a lot of people can't possibly be enjoying this and being connected to their body, because I do a lot of research about porn, area of interest of mine. And I am fascinated by the fact that people jerk it to AI porn now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
that's disturbing.
that's not a fucking person. That's not like a real woman. She's like you're jerking off to a mirage. But I think that this is actually the natural end result of like online pornography, is that people see these other like strangers behind a screen who like don't even know who they are, and like they just jerk off to that, and they're like, wow, I wish that like this woman who has spent a small fortune on surgery to look literally like a Barbie doll, like I wish that I could have sex with her like very plastic looking body that has been edited heavily, is like probably covered in makeup, and like it is that people want something that is really, really fake. And I think that that is like another issue between men and women. I think that men, like they go into a bedroom and like they're with a real live woman and she takes her clothes off and doesn't look like that woman. And they get frustrated because they're like, where is the dolly?
Yeah.
That, like, was in the video. Like, this woman has stretch marks, you know? And I think that is like another element of it, is that like a lot of men sexually think that they want something that's not real. And I say think because I think a lot of that is like a bullshit put on. Like, especially I notice this with right wing guys, is that they all pretend that they only like blonde women with big tits and that they want to have like missionary sex in the dark with her. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what you want. I know you're lying. Like, so in conclusion, to men about the weird things that they think about sex, the lady in the AI porn is not real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a real person. The woman in porn is a real person, but she's done a lot to look that way, and that's all like artificial. And you're not having sex with her, and you don't have an intimate relationship with her. She doesn't know who you are. There are real women that you can have sex with, but they're people, and you should talk to them like they're people. And I can help you talk to a woman like a person, because I know how to have a normal conversation with a woman, and I have had sex with many women, so successfly. And so I can help you with that if you are an incel. I have had sex with, I think like probably maybe like almost 20 women. I don't really keep track, but I would say it's like somewhere around 15 probably. And so that's a pretty good high score for now. And so I know how to do that. And yeah, like it's important to have real sex with real women who are people and to understand that they're people. And if you do this, you might get a girlfriend. And she might be one that you like, and she might like you back.
Awesome. Well, anything you want to plug before we officially wrap up here? I mean, obviously, Normalmaxxing.
Right now, Normalmaxxing is a Substack, which, like I said, I took a little bit of a hiatus from and will be getting back to. And shortly, Normalmaxxing is also going to be available on YouTube, and I think probably TikTok for as long as it lasts as well. I'm going to do like shorter form stuff. And it's important that I start video content because many people cannot read. We have a literacy crisis. I look at my mentions all of the time, and there are people who are very angry with me because they think I said something that I didn't say. So I'm concerned about that as a former English tutor. That's an aside. People can't read. But I am going to make video content for those who cannot read and choose not to learn, who don't want to learn how to read. So if you can't read, videos are coming soon, and those will help you Normalmax. And if you can read, there is an existing Normalmaxxing Substack that you can read. And you can also find me on Twitter, where you can find my inbox. And if you would like life coaching services from me, please email normalmaxxing@gmail.com. I'm probably eventually going to switch to Proton because I'm becoming a little bit paranoid about like data encryption. So I'm probably going to get like an encrypted email for Normalmaxxing soon. I think that that's just good, prudent advice for everyone to try to go encrypted if you can. So I'm probably going to change it eventually, but right now it's just a Gmail inbox. So normalmaxxing@gmail.com. Let me know if you need help being normal with something, and we can discuss rates.
Perfect. Hey, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out with the algorithm. And if you really like the show, consider supporting the show on Patreon. And hey, one of the benefits of supporting this show on Patreon is that you get your name read out at the end of every episode. So, without further ado, this episode was brought to you by our lovely patrons, who include Avakai Brodagam, I Drink Corn Syrup, Yum, I Am Once Again, Leo Zachary Dickinson, Philip Cozy, Vita Breva, Attention Francis, Derek Hale, Gavin Aronson, Josh Christensen, Kyle Gannis, Metric Conversion, Mitchell McKinley, Moss, Nathan Thiessen, Racecar, Randy Sutton, Regular Sized Horse, parentheses, Small, Robert Eilman, Stephen aka Spike Stonehand, The Worst of All Possible Worlds, Vicky Sutton, and Rick Lane, Yeens, and of course, Chris Barker. And I will see you all on the Patreon in a few days, maybe a week, for another music exchange. Yeah, so that's cool.